Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Whale Nerds podcast. This is episode 122. My name is Slater, and I'm here with Caitlin.
Hello.
Who almost said Adam.
Adam's out of town, but we have a guest this week. We are chatting with Katherina Audley. She's a Nat Geo Explorer and founder and director of Whales of Guerrero, a community-driven research, education, and training-based program based in Southwest Pacific, Mexico. Katherina has participated in whale research and community building projects around the world since 1997 and has a 25-year-long relationship with the Mexican community where she lives and works. Katherina's work with Whales of Guerrero has been featured by the United Nations and other organizations for its collaborative approach to marine conservation. She also serves as a board member, committee member, and advisor to a number of international marine science and conservation organizations, including Society for Marine Mammalogy, the Mexican Marine Mammal Society, and the IUCN. She divides her time between the village of Barra de Potosi in Mexico and then also in Portland, Oregon. When she's not looking for whales or working with communities, she likes tracking carnivores on Mount Hood, hunting for truffles with her trusty Labrador Cholula. And you can learn more about the Whales of Guerrero Project and how to get involved at whalesinmexico.com. So welcome, Katherina. We're so excited to have you.
Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. How's the carnivore tracking on Mount Hood this summer?
Well, I haven't really been up actually this summer, but last summer was the last time I got up there, and we did find a lot of interesting foxes. So that was
cool.
the big hot topic of the year last year.
Nice. Also, just a question about your background. You started as a travel writer, is that right?
Well, I actually started with a degree in ancient religion from Berkeley.
Okay.
And then I became a traveler, which turned me into a travel writer. Then I worked at the Exploratorium in San Francisco.
Oh, cool. I love that place.
Yeah, me too. And then I became a communications person. So I started working on, I got very interested in how to get people excited and connected with the world around them. And so that includes, of course, science. And I fell in love with whales when I was 1997 that I became a massive whale nerd, and then began doing the work with the whales around then.
Awesome.
That's awesome. When did you get started or interested in the marine field?
Well,
1997.
Yeah, I always wanted to do something that would use my mind and take me outside. And it's always been about the ocean for me. But I didn't really think about whales until I lived on Baker Beach, right by the Golden Gate Bridge in 1997. And now I'm going to out myself as a big giant hippie and tell you that I fell in love with whales because I started having dreams about them in 1997. And I would basically wake up from these dreams and it was like, oh my gosh, there's these animals out there and they're huge and they live at the bottom of the ocean and they know things and they're smart and they just are these aliens and I have to see one. And so I wasn't making much money working at the Exploratorium, but I saved up my museum workers' wages and took boats out to the Farallon Islands, which was the closest you could come to a whale watch tour back then. And I'd get out, I think I went in May, which is the bumpiest, windiest month to go out.
Yeah.
And went out for a 8-hour trip to the Farallons and saw one gray whale so distantly, but that's what got me totally hooked, that one tiny fluke of a gray whale. And then I started saving my money to get closer and closer to the whales and volunteering for people to get to be near the whales. And I became a total fangirl of whale scientists. So I tricked them into spending time with me because I've always been able to write. So I started a zine called Whoosh, the zine for whale lovers. And I would call my very most incredibly fanned out whale scientists and say, would you like to be featured in my whale magazine? And they would usually say yes. And I would go find them in their museum or their lab and interview them and write a glow piece about them in my little zine. And that got me closer to whale scientists in that way. And as I volunteered and wrote more and more about them, I accrued knowledge enough to be able to begin my own project in 2013.
Wow, that's awesome.
Well, it's kind of coming. Oh, go ahead, Slater.
No, go. You first.
I was gonna say it's kind of coming full circle because that's literally what we do with the podcast is we find people that like we want to talk to and we're like, will you please be on our podcast?
Yeah, instead it's a podcast and not a magazine now.
Yeah.
I feel
like totally. I get that. Yep.
I feel like the gray whale is such a starter kit whale for people, especially from California or like the West Coast. It's just like everyone's first whale, and it's always like, I kind of saw it because that's kind of what gray whales are anyways. It's like, and then it's like, but I needed to see more.
Oh, totally. And then there's the orca phase, right? Where you go through the gray whale, and then you realize that orcas are just the kings of the ocean and they're so smart and all of that. And maybe you jump right into that from Free Willy or not. But I think that most people have to go through their orca stage, and some people stick at it for life. But I definitely, I've had a lot of people work for me at this point, and most of them are really in the secret heart of their orca stage, and they're making do with studying humpbacks with me. But what they really want is to be around orcas all the time. And I did that too. I mean, I totally, I went up and I worked on Vancouver Island, and I worked in, I was down in Argentina at Peninsula Valdez, just staring for a month, getting a lopsided sunburn from a mile away from where I could get any good view, because I didn't have the money or the credentials to get that $300 a day permit to be super close to them. But yeah, I feel like I had to get them out of my system. And I still love them, but yeah.
It's so funny because it's like everyone I know that has gotten into like photography with like photographing whales, it's like once they get their first taste of killer whales, like that's like all they want is killer whales. Like they'll go here, then they go up to San Juan Island, they spend spring here, San Juan Island in summers, and they go back and forth and they're just hunting these killer whale shots. But it's funny. My favorite whale now is a humpback, and it's like, I don't know if it's because killer whales could be a pain in the butt, but I definitely just love humpback whales now. But you definitely have to go through a killer whale stage, and there's nothing like the feeling you get when you are with killer whales. Like there's definitely a feeling that is like the power, you can feel it in the air when they're around. But yeah,
totally. Yeah, I mean that they're so photogenic and just sexy and smart, and it's right. And also the transients versus the residents, they have such a different feeling. And yeah, it's really, it is true. Yeah, but I'm glad you've moved over to Team Humpback too. So, yeah.
They just do so much. Humpbacks are just characters.
They are. I mean, I feel like they've got to be everybody's favorite whale ultimately. I mean, they're so close into shore. They're so acrobatic. They sing, they're flexible, they're resilient, they're so resourceful. They defend other species. I mean, there is so much to love about them, and they make themselves available to us. It's
they're so cool.
They are. So how did you start getting this Mexico project with humpback whales going? It's been going for almost 10 years now, right?
Yeah, it's going to be our 10th year this year. So it was this beautiful confluence of everything that I love and everything I care about and am good at all coming together to make this project, the Whales of Guerrero. So what happened was, it was 2013, and I had gotten married down there to an American man in 2011. And I feel like that when I got married there in 2011 on the beach, and I promised for richer, for poor, and sickness and health till death do us part, like I married the beach and I married the community. Because unfortunately the marriage didn't last, but the project did. And that what happened is I got married there, and I had been going there for 10 years before that at least. And I guess, let's see, I went there in 97 for the first time. So gosh, I'm not a mathematician. What is that, 13, 14 years? And I invited my friends who were local to come to the wedding. I'd gone fishing with them a lot, and I knew it was a really fishy place. It was the kind of place that fish would whack against your legs and the surf, and you could just drop a hand line and pull up a red snapper, and drop a line and pull up a red snapper. I always saw dolphins, and in the winter, I always saw humpbacks. And so when it was 2013, I'd kind of outgrown doing my communications and web stuff, and I was casting about for what to do. And when I got married down there, I noticed that the community really benefited from me bringing 80 people from around the world to this place. And my friends down there, I had seen them go better and better, and then go through this economic slump when swine flu hit, or it was bird flu came, and there was some cartel violence, and people got really freaked out by it. So tourism crashed, and my friends were suffering. And I noticed the fishery was suffering too. It had been overfished, and we just weren't catching the fish that we used to. So I thought, well, that felt really good to help my friends. They came down and they drank beer and ate guacamole, and my friends were able to buy school supplies for their kids and fix their roofs with that money. And that felt like the best wedding present ever. So why not do something to try and help? And I knew there were humpback whales there, and there was no tourism around ecotourism. There were fishing. It was a really great place to go pelagic fishing. So it was very common to go by the dumpster outside of Zihuatanejo by the pier and see dozens of sailfish and just there in the dumpster after having had their picture taken, and nobody even ate them. Mm-hmm. And after all of those years of fishing the big fish out, there wasn't anything left. And so I thought, well, we could start ecotourism, but having traveled around the world doing whale watching, I'd seen the good and the bad that whale watching can do. Mm-hmm. And I knew that the way good whale watching works in a sustainable way is when the community is in charge, and when they're really invested in the long-term health of the sea, because they benefit. It's a part of their identity that they take care of the ocean. This is who we are. These are our whales. We are the ocean. We are Earth. We help each other. Let's do this together. And I'd been so inspired by that in Kaikoura, New Zealand. I'd been inspired by that in San Ignacio Lagoon. And I had seen bad examples. So we didn't know how many whales there were or what kind of marine mammal species were in Guerrero. And that totally surprised me, because I mean, I've been in like San Juan Island and Hawaii and Monterey and all these like whale intensive places. So I thought there was like one researcher per whale around the world, especially with all the orca stuff. And so then to realize there's like an entire state in Mexico where no one has ever done any research about the marine mammals was amazing to me. And so I thought, well, why don't we find out what's here and start building something together where I can use my science communication background to get people connected with the ocean and do really public open science, like the way you do at the Exploratorium, where you show them a phenomena and you say, hey, try this. And someone does it and they go, that's weird. And then the exhibit says, what's going on? And then the exhibit explains what's going on. And then you go, huh, and you feel more connected to the natural world. So I did that with this whale stuff. And I did a research project. I raised some funds just by begging everyone I knew for money and asking them to ask everyone they knew for money. And in 2014, I raised $20,000 and I went down there. I had already like tricked John Kalambakidis into talking to me from my zine. And so he shared with me his splash survey analysis data.
Yeah.
And I think he felt kind of sorry for me, and like, well, it won't cost me anything to share with you information, and you will see if you last. I'm sure there's lots of people like that. So I just took the data, the how to collect down there, and I learned how to use a digital camera, and I hired a local captain, and we started going out, and we collected 300 hours of data that first year. And I decided we're going to do this for 5 years, because there's going to be up years and down years depending on temperature, prey availability in the north, and calving cycles and so forth. So let's give this 5 years, and that'll give us an idea of where are these whales coming from, where are they going, are they living here, or are they just passing through? What's Guerrero to the whales? And so that's how it started.
That's awesome.
That's so
So
cool.
you originally started just really small group, right? Like one main captain and then you, and then as I'm assuming as it's grown, it's now a lot of the locals are pretty involved, right?
Yeah. So the first guy I hired, his name is Arturo, and I hired him because he was the one that was nice enough to help the turtle people when they had a turtle. There's 4 different species of sea turtles there, and was one person that was taking care of them, and when there would be an entangled turtle that they needed to release, they would call him, and he would take them out and let the turtle free. And so he cared a tiny bit about nature, and he helped with the bird count. So this was like this nature guy that answered the phone. So I hired him. We barely knew each other, and my Spanish was pretty poor. And I got so excited when I would see a whale that I could barely take its pictures. I got like 24 flukes that year, and there's not that many whales there, but it was a real, now we get about 100 flukes a year. So, but I would just get so excited that I would practically drop the camera. But I invited the kids to come on the boat, and I invited the captains, and the way I got them to come on board was by playing by the hydrophone. So no one knew down there that whales were mammals, and they didn't know that they sing. They didn't know like that the moms have babies that they care for as individuals and feed them milk, these sorts of things. So the captains, who were also divers, they had heard whale songs in the night when they would be diving, and it freaked them out. They didn't like it. So there was a little bit of fear around whales. So I would say, hey, you want to go and hear whales sing from the boat? And they would come out, and we would listen to the whales sing. And by the end of that first season, the kids in the village are riding their bikes around the village, singing whale songs on their bikes. And I know, and there were these, I put a big map and a calendar in the middle of the village. It's like 3 streets by 3 streets. And it was just right in the middle, right on the kindergarten. And people would go up and sort of look at this calendar where I would write how many whales we saw and where we saw them. And every time I got some good pictures or something, I would invite the village to come, and I would project video that I saw onto the village wall. There was just this white wall, and I would project it, and people started coming, just a few the first year, with their like Corona plastic beach chairs, and we would like nerd out on whale stuff. So that's how it started. And I told the village when I started, like, you guys, I care about you a lot, and I can see that the fishery is not doing well and tourism isn't going great. And did you know that there's places in the world where people will pay money to go see whales? And there are places in the world where the captains have such a good relationship with whales that they will like relax and sleep around your boat. And the captains are famous for their friendship for these whales. And they thought that was weird. But they said, okay, so if you want to help, what you should do is you should focus on the kids, and you should focus on the young people, and don't worry about the old fishermen. They're not going to change. Just focus on the young ones that are starting out in life, and focus on the kids if you want to make a difference. And so even though I'm not a big kid person, I just was like, okay. And so I focused on the young fisher captains, and I made a workshop every Wednesday at the tiny village library, which is just like a musty old room. And we would like play whale, and just do what we could. So that was the first year. And then the second year, I hired a really, really great educator named Andrea. And she had just graduated from UNAM in Mexico City and just loves teaching, loves connecting people with whales. And she's a very, very good spotter. And so the second year, I hired her and a couple of foreign people from Europe to work with me, and realized that it was best to hire all local people. And it was just easier and better. So then after that, Andrea stayed with me, and I began committing to hiring and training local people who didn't have science degrees, but teaching them skills, and hiring early career Mexican scientists to come and work on the team. And the biggest priority was they had to have good communication skills and good empathy, and like really get it, that the priority was about connecting with people. Because if we created a culture where people put whale safety first, the rest would follow. But if we did super great science and collected the data and didn't share it in real time and let ask the community to drive in and participate in and show them the benefits along the way, we would just see things get worse. And we weren't finding there were that many whales. We would find like one whale every 3 hours. So, you have to work for it down there. And we see dolphins like, well, this year we didn't, but we used to see them about 85% of the time. And we see turtles almost every day, and we have really interesting rays, and mobulas. So you can get out there and see some really cool stuff. But we can't say you're going to see a whale or you get your money back or anything like that. So it's this really like fragile thing, because like you can't have everybody getting on top of one whale there.
Yeah.
So
go ahead, Slater.
Is there a whale watch company there now?
Yeah, there's a lot actually.
Okay.
So if we fast forward to today, well, in 2021, by that time, so you go forward, and so we move forward, and now we started doing training programs the year I started. And then every year after that, we did a 2-day training program. And so I would invite captains to come, and with my educating team, we would do a 1 full day of safe whale watch, talking, practicing biology, very intensive class course for 8 hours. And then the next day we would go to sea, and we would go out and practice. And so we get like, there were 2 big boats, and we'd go out on a big boat or on a whole bunch of pangas and split up and get out there and be around whales and watch each other and practice distances and make sure no one was closer than 60 meters to a whale. That's the Mexican law, if you're authorized. And being at sea, it's the distance is difficult. So practicing that distance, just using boat to boat to say, how far are you now? How far are you now? Okay, now this boat be the whale, this boat be the following boat. And so we did a lot of practice out there, and the practice was great. And it grew to be about 75 captains that attended the trainings over time. So it's pretty big. But the real cool thing that happened is by doing this training, the captains got very united, and we had a great time doing the course. I think it's super important to be fun and to ask the community what they want to learn and what they want to work on, and then to meet up and have pizza and beer available, and just be around to be that kind of person that makes the space for people to come together and talk about what's going on. So we became that to this community. So last year, there were 50 authorized boats, and this includes not just my little village, Barra de Potosí. This includes Zihuatanejo, Ixtapa, Troncones. And so we worked as a group of captains for, I guess we started in 2018 asking, we did a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of what it would look like if we became a federally authorized whale watch area, which we were not. And after analyzing it, decided to request that for our region, which would give us federal protection and support, but it would also be a greater impact on the whales. But the community of whale watchers decided to do that with us. And so when we submitted our 5-year study, it was signed by 50 captains who were like, we want this. This is what we're doing. And so before we became an authorized group, we were already acting as if we were an authorized site. And then the city and the government kind of followed us. And so in 2021, the city designated that year to be the year of the whale. And they made all this really cool recycled art. And so now there's like murals and sculptures all over the city of whales and made out of like recycled bottle caps and cool stuff like that. So now it's sort of a known thing. And it's when you go to the airport, when you're waiting in customs line, you see a picture of a humpback whale and you can click the QR code and it shows you a video of Arturo taking people whale watching and playing whale songs. And but it all goes through the channel of going with authorized whale guides and these guys. So it's kind of like the cool thing. And so by making this community-backed whale project and them collecting the science, like Arturo is a co-author on science publications that I've presented at these conferences and things that we go to. And he comes to some of the science conferences. He doesn't speak English, but he comes to the Mexican marine mammal science ones and presents the data. And now he's the guy that people want to know. I mean, he's the one that was out there more than anyone, even though we collected data with a lot of different guys. He's the one that has accrued the most hours. So yeah, and so he's very, very proud of who he is. And he has seen what it looks like to see whales get harassed and not harassed. And he's felt the flattery of when a mom comes and rests by your boat with her calf and just how good that feels. And to have that trust and to have a whale approach your boat and to, when it's relaxed. And so that's been really, really cool that the identity and the culture of the captains in our area is that they want to be good with the whales. It's not like, so, and that's something that really happened organically over time by the community driving this and owning this project along with us.
That's incredible. That's so cool. So when you become like a federally recognized like whale tour area, does that mean there's like a permitting system for boats and stuff?
That does. And so what that means is that the guys who want to be an authorized whale watch boat, their boat has to have been inspected and go with a certain number of safety criteria. And they also have to have attended a safe whale watch course every year. And so that's kind of our way to continue to stay connected with the process, even though it's now in the hands of the government, is that we do that side of it. And then every year the guides start a new WhatsApp group that's about who's an authorized guide, and then they give each other insights about who's with the whales, and where the whales are, and also to keep it from being too many people with the whale at the same time. And when there's an unauthorized boat, they will talk to them. We go through about 500 handouts a year of like that this is a safe whale watch area and these are the rules and it's a nursery and the whales are big, but they're vulnerable. And the guides really appreciate and ask for having this information to hand out to be that point of contact for people who may not know that the laws are in place. So yeah, and so once you get the authorization, if you're in a little boat like a panga, then you can get 60 feet away from the whale. But if you're not authorized, you have to stay 200, or not feet, meters. If you're not authorized, you have to stay 240 meters away. So
wow.
Yeah, it's far. And no matter who you are, you have to stay no longer than 30 minutes near the whale. And there can only be a certain number of boats with the whale at any given time. And then there's other things to practice around, not going face to face with the whale and, the angle of approach and speeds and speed changes and so forth.
Nice. That's really cool.
What a community.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. We're beginning to communicate with communities in Oaxaca and Central America and in South America as well about what we're doing. And I feel super lucky that we got to do this together and start from the ground up, because I think it's so much easier when you than to try and fix a broken dynamic,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And for us, like, the obvious way to support ourselves financially would have been to be a whale watch company ourselves. But we did expeditions where we'll take like 12 people a year for 1 week a year out on the boat with us. But besides that, Whales of Guerrero doesn't do whale watching. We support the other guys. So we're not the competition. And so that kind of helps also to keep everybody in communication.
So do you guys still do the expedition thing? I kind of remember when that was going on, that people could come like volunteer, and then they had to cover like some of the expenses of the accommodations and stuff like that to be down there. And was that kind of like a funding source for a while?
It was for a while. We had it for, we're not doing it this year, but we have had it every year except for this year. So we'll have them on again in 2023. So this year, we're going to focus on just getting our infrastructure stronger around education. And the other thing I'm really focused on right now is I want to do a 3-year land-based study where we identify along a 75-mile stretch of coastline where mom-calf pairs are nursing and resting and potentially giving birth, and what boat traffic looks like in those areas and where they're most vulnerable. So of course, it's going to take a few years to get some data that's robust.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't, that's just, people are not going to want to pay money to come down and stand on a freaking lighthouse for days. I mean, I've done that job and it is hard. It is a hard job. So my goal this year, we piloted it last year, and my goal is to have 6 sites up and running along this whole stretch this year. And I want to bring in Mexican students who just graduated from college to do their social service work. And I'm really committed to paying as much as I can to, I don't do pay to play internships, and I pay local people and I pay my team. So this year I'm focused on hiring a crew of young Mexican scientists and young recent graduates to come and get this going. So I think that's going to probably take it out of me. So we'll do that, and we'll do we do a really fun now greeting ceremony for the whales and closing ceremony, where we've got a guitarist, Gabriela Quintero. She's from the band Rodrigo y Gabriela, and she adopted a whale of ours. She lives down there and wrote a song about it. It's called Motitas, and Motitas means polka dots. You see Motitas around Monterey. Motitas is around this year.
Look up
Motitas. Yeah. She's got polka dots all over, and she has a calf this year. But yeah, I got sightings about her every few days in July. So but I saw her on a boat with Gabby down in Mexico in like 2015, and then she adopted it and wrote this song. And now she's doing the neatest thing where she's like one of the greatest guitar players in the world. And she writes this song Motitas that started as a single song, and it feels like a whale in a way. The song changes every year, like a whale song changes. So some of the themes from the year before, but it changes thematically a little bit every year, just like the whale song does. And we bring musicians from around the world and do this beautiful welcome ceremony for the whales. And then we do a big closing party to kind of close it out, celebrate, and end the season and say, okay, that's it. No more whale watching, says the last of the whales straggle out and really need a break. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So nowadays, to go whale watching in our area, the thing to do is to like go to our website, whalesinmexico.com, and then look for the guides. And then there's an option to ask one of us to hop aboard. And then I'll send myself or one of the team members out if they need a bilingual translator to be a naturalist like you, and to spend the day on the boat with them. And
Cool.
that allows us to collect data opportunistically, spend time with the captain, supporting them. And also the money goes to the captain beyond the, the $50 naturalist fee for us. So that's all we're doing this year. And then hopefully we'll have a nice full expedition the next year.
So you are also a Nat Geo Explorer. So are they like helping the whole project, or how does that work?
No, so to be a National Geographic Explorer means that you've received some grants from National Geographic and you're basically a part of their club. And so they don't pay ongoing salary, but when you're an explorer, then you're eligible to apply for small grants and larger ones. So this last year, I received a grant from them to take 50 women out to sea, which was so freaking fun. As my favorite thing these days is supporting the women in the village. They become like, you can see on the wall behind me some of the art that the women have done, and they're getting really, really good. And they had like made all this cool art about whales, and I realized that you can see some of them have orca fever too, huh? There's some killer whales behind us, and there's like one killer whale sighting a year where we live. But yeah, they do this big art fair, and now some of them have become tour guides in their own right, and it's walking tour guides. But when I found out that most of them had never been on a boat, even though their husbands were fishermen, and they hadn't seen a whale in real life, I was like, oh, I gotta fix this. So, because I think if you want to change a culture, you have to start with the women too. I mean, so it's felt really good for me to find ways to support the women and ask them, how can we help you? And share marketing development skills and how to become your own business. And now the women are doing cooking classes and walking tours and selling art, and they're sending their kids to summer camps, and whole families are really proud that like some of these women, their kids are becoming biologists. Like there's never been college graduates in our village before, and now some of them are in school studying biology because of sort of hanging out around the office with us and us making science cool and showing them like men and women can go and you can do this thing where you get to go and you spend most of your life sitting in front of a computer and scrapping for funds, but you also get to see the best stuff, right?
Yeah.
Whales are amazing.
They are. They really are.
They like just easily have such an impact on like all of us.
Yeah.
So you see humpbacks there, and you said you see dolphins there. Have you, in your years there, have you seen any other marine mammals?
Oh yeah. So we saw, I'll tell you I think my most exciting recent sighting was we saw the first sperm whale ever in Guerrero.
Really?
Yeah. It was the last day of the season, and there's this place you go out to sea about 15 miles, and the water just abruptly changes color. And every time we go out there, we see a new to us species, some weird beaked whale, or a whole bunch of Brutus whales, or a massive group of spinner dolphins, common dolphin, rhesos. Things that I'm sure you guys in Monterey are like, yeah, but to us, it's very, very exciting.
It's still pretty cool.
So, yeah. And like in 2016, we had an El Nino year. And so there were like no whales. And so we were desperate to find something and to see what was happening. So we would go out to sea far out, and we kept just finding all kinds of Xiphias and interesting animals way out there. And close in, what we have that I think I love the most is the rough-toothed dolphins. So we have a very consistent population of rough-toothed dolphins that one of my team members, Victoria Pui-Santalou, has led studying since 2015. So she's been doing a fin catalog of them and has gotten to know them as individuals. And I think she's got 120 individuals. And you may have Eric Ramos. He's a really good drone pilot, among other things, and he did some cool drone work that got us some videos of rough-toothed dolphins sharing a fish while having sex, and like handing the fish back and forth and having sex, and dolphins, right?
Yeah.
So and
exactly.
yeah, and we got these really fun rough-toothed dolphin interactions with humpbacks, and So the rough-toothed dolphin stuff, I mean, they're like the border collies of the dolphin world, you know?
Yeah, they're a little funky looking. I want to see them in person. I've never seen
Dang,
them in person
yeah.
before.
They're
They're
like a
so-
skinny bottlenose or something.
They're so smart. Like bottlenoses are like Labradors, but rough-toothed dolphins, they're freaking studying us. Like they look at us, they'll like turn one eye, look at us, go back down, probably take a note down there underwater, come back up, take another recording, go back down, go do some more work, and maybe have a conference about these people up there. But they're just, I mean, they just do such interesting things. The way that they fish and the way that they share, the way they interact with each other and with other marine mammals is totally captivating. And they're the worst fish stealers. I mean, so they're the biggest culprits in stealing fish from fishermen.
Mhm.
And they're the ones that were getting themselves in trouble all the time out offshore in the nets, as they would sort of jump over the net in and jump over the net out, because they're really cocky. And they just feel like they look like they're beached a lot of the time when they're picking fish out of set nets on shore. So they're really amazing. And I always get super excited when I'm around them, and they're very synchronous in how they swim. So they're awesome. And then we've got real consistent spotted dolphins, pantropical spotted dolphins. Our bottlenose dolphins have been declining, and I'm super grateful that we've been there to study them, because we used to see them maybe 2 times a week in 2014. And this year we did about 200 hours of data collection, and we saw them 3 times. And a few years ago, we saw that they had a disease called lobomycosis, where it's kind of like grayscale if you watch Thrones, and it's contagious to humans from dolphins. So we saw that the dolphins were just covered with this nasty looking rash, and they're so skinny where we are. Their ribs are, they've got a big caves in their heads, and the ribs are out. So yeah, so I'm glad we've been there to collect the data, at least, you know, to know that here are these animals that they cling to the coast. They prefer the coral areas to feed. When we were out at a lighthouse doing work a few years ago for a whole season, we saw dolphins there every day. We haven't seen a dolphin there in a few years now. So getting this information has been really, really helpful, because that indicates there's something up, right? I mean, with the ocean and with the fishery. And so using that data to show something about the canary in the coal mine has been really helpful. So, yeah.
So does most of your research, I mean, you guys are big supporters and users of Happy Whale. John Kalanikitis from Cascadia is on your scientific advisory group.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming a lot of it also goes to inform the Mexican government for management stuff.
Yeah. And so Ted and I at Happy Whale, we partner on our whale adoption program, and that's a big way that he and I are both able to keep our programs going, which is super awesome. And yeah, Happy Whale, man, so amazing that I just can't believe the instantaneous nature of fluke identification at this point. It's mind-blowing. But yeah, so we give our data to about 50 different research institutions we share with UNAM and UABS, which is in La Paz, and then with Universidad de Colima and with Oaxaca. So we have this whole network of researchers up and down the Mexican coastline that we partner with. And then, with Cascadia, and then we work with NOAA and the Southwest Fisheries to also just share what we have. As I'm one person, you know, and I have a team that works with me as educators and scientists, but the idea is to get this data collected, written up, and share it out, and then make it accessible. The stuff that we've collected down in Guerrero has contributed to the understanding of humpback whales as our whales in Guerrero, we now know are much more aligned with the Central America group of whales, of which there are 400 individuals, than the mainland Mexico whales. And so given that, it's a pretty tiny little group that does come to this area. And we know based on resighting rates and IDs and just the rate of mom-calf pairs that we see, that they are nursing and calving there. And well, we've seen enough whales with fetal folds and tiny whales with bent dorsal fins that I would say that at least some of these whales are being born there, and many of them are less than a month old. So that's been pretty important, as the data that we collected there then contributed to California's decision to not do crab fishing during the summertime, as they realized, like, oh, okay, these Guerrero whales are part of this population and they're coming to you in Monterey, and they're an endangered group. So this kind of data that we get out there and collect and then we share it is definitely contributing to a bigger global picture and understanding of what the North Pacific whales are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were one of the first people that I ever heard say, we have whales in common. And now I use that all the time. You're like, these are our whales down here. And we were giving a talk in San Francisco and you're like, we have whales in common, to the audience. And I was like, oh, that's really good.
Right. That makes me feel proud. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just amazing to me to think back full circle to back in 1997 when I hadn't seen a whale, and they were just this idea to me, and I had to go see one. And I was dreaming about swimming under the Golden Gate Bridge in Wales in this dream. And today you can see freaking humpback whales swimming underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. And they are the same whales that we see down in Guerrero. I mean, that blew my mind when we made our first match, and I was down in Guerrero, and I think the second whale I ever saw, Fran, you must know Fran.
Yes.
2049.
Has a baby.
She's oh man, she just loves that camera, doesn't she?
Yes.
Yeah, she's the first whale I learned here. Like that first whale. She's not the first whale I saw in Monterey, but she's the first one I ID'd.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And we were the first people to take a picture of her calf because we thought she was a male, and I got a picture of her with her calf in 2014.
Yeah. And that calf never made it to California, but she has one this year too.
That's so cool. Yeah. She's the second whale I ever ID'd. So we have that in common. Yeah. She's so, yeah, but I just couldn't believe it when I took this picture, and then I brought back my 24 measly IDs to Cascadia Research Collective before Happy Well was really going, and said, hey, John, here's my stuff. And then Alana Dobson and Kirsten Flynn did this analysis and said, okay, here's your matches. And Fran had like 42 sightings up there. And
oh,
yeah, the first time she had been seen down there. And I just couldn't believe it, that that's even possible, that we can all be out there taking pictures of whales and connect them across thousands of miles. I mean,
yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It really is. It really is.
So with the NOAA technical memorandum that just came out, we talked about it in a previous episode not that long ago. So your whales really more fall into that South mainland Mexico, Central American designation, right?
Yeah. And we don't know where the boundary is. I mean, boundaries always kind of make me laugh because they're whales, right?
Yeah.
But because the group of Central America whales is smaller, we have a higher quantity of whales that rematch to whales around Monterey and in Northern California. But by percentage, we have a higher rate of matches to Southern California. And so that combined with the genetics, we're finding also, I'm just working on a note right now about that. And our genetics definitely conform much more closely to the Central America whale haplotype than to the mainland Mexico one. But that said, there's a lot of interchange, and there's a lot of work to do. And then there's always those fun globetrotter whales, right? Like we published with Jim Darling a paper this year.
Yes.
Did you see that? It was.
We talked about that one too in the Hawaiian humpback episode. Yeah, where they switch between places. Huh?
Who did you talk to about that paper?
We just read the paper and then presented it on the episode. We didn't talk to Jim or anything, but yeah, Slater and I were like totally nerding out about. They
Oh,
swam
cool.
across the Pacific, and
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
super
And it was
cool.
so fast. What was it, like 22 days or something? It was,
Yeah.
It was like a month. Yeah.
and yeah, it just, and I always think about these song carrying whales, I call them, and it's just an idea, but the question is, how does that song get carried from and to Mexico and Hawaii so that they're singing that similar song at the end of the year that was so different in the beginning? And yeah, I mean, some of it could be happening in the feeding grounds and in transit, but I just love the idea of a single male whale tootling across the ocean, singing the tune of the year to itself, you know, and out there to the next breeding ground and dropping the hot new song of the season. And what do the whales think? And I feel like this whale, we call it Flint, could be that whale that is one of those whales that is will not conform to any population segment, and is like, oh no, I go everywhere. I go to all places, and you cannot tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna start seeing that more and more.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the challenge is then we can't, because of protection laws, say, oh, whales are panmictic, right? I mean, that they go everywhere because they do have their tendencies. Like they're so regular, some of them. Like we have resites every year. They come back within like a week of the year before. And it's like, oh, well, we always go to Guerrero the second week of February. And like, that's, you know, when we have our condo rented or something like that. So I just really notice that about the whales, but then they also do kind of go all over the place. And humpbacks, I mean, they're so flexible compared to gray whales, you know, their feeding techniques and the way they transmit information and change, unlike so many of the others.
Yeah.
So Bottlenose, a whale that we met her calf this year.
Yeah, I just pulled her up because I was thinking the same thing.
Look,
has a calf now. Oh, that's so cool.
So
her third one. Yeah.
But it's cool.
Neat.
She's been seen off of Cabo. She's been seen with you and then El Salvador. So it's like really cool.
Yeah, she's got a tail that has looks like a pig on part of it as well. Did you ever notice that? There's like a pig type pattern on one side of her lobe, and then the other side looks like a bottlenose.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, if you look at if that's a nose on the right side. I see that. Yeah, that's so funny. I guess I see it as a bottlenose too.
Yeah, I think that's what they call the bottlenose, but I could see sea lion, pig, whatever.
Yeah, or like a ferret.
And I mean, the thing that I think about all the time is, so for each of these whales that has a very distinct exclamation point, and Batman or Corazon, he's called too, or Lexus, the ones that are super known for their very distinct tail, there's so many that are just like category 5, nothing, right? But they're around too. We're just not noticing them. It's like seeing the guy with the blue mohawk all over town, you know? But then everybody is showing up at that frequency. We just don't know to spot them. So and what to do with that information is, I think about that all the time.
Yeah, I talk about Bottlenoses sighting history in the breeding grounds a lot when we see her. I mean, I just pull up Happy Whale on my phone and I like pull up the whales info and read it off. But yeah, it's like, did she stop in Cabo like one time and get her photo taken? But really, she likes being down in South Mexico and Central America somewhere? Or does she switch? I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, that is a big question. And I mean, and do females do it differently than males? I mean, we used to think that females only came every 2 or 3 years, but that might not be the case for finding now. And so this is more information that we're going to have to figure out. For sure. Yeah.
Well, it's so exciting. So cool. Yeah. Well, I guess I just to wrap up kind of like the publication and research side of things, are there any other publications that have come out recently that you wanted to share with people other than that memo kind of helping define, you know, who's who of the US West Coast humpbacks, where they're coming from? Do you guys have any other stuff that's new?
Are about to come out? I guess things that you can download. Oh gosh, I should be more up on this. I've got this just a really stuffed pipeline right now. So this question in a year and I'll be like, boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, I know you said you're writing a lot.
Yeah. It's been really satisfying to finally be getting a lot of these bigger stories out. So I just published something as co-author with Christian Ortega Ortiz. He'd be fun to talk to for you guys too. He's at Colima, and we're really into our false killer whales. And so we're starting to do some work on the ecology of false killer whales in Mexico. So that just came out. What else just came out? Mentioned the food sharing one with Eric Ramos. Food sharing among rough-toothed dolphins was really fun. And then the Jim Darling one. And then, John and I are working on a paper that I'm excited for you to read. We have to get it written up. I presented it as a talk at SMM, and it was about the migratory tendencies of Guerrero whales to California. And so really getting more into the details of what the patterns are, and that we see more of them in Central America or Central California and Middle California around Monterey. We do, of course, get some in Northern California, Oregon, and Washington, but there's a very strong cutoff, relatively speaking, compared to anything that you're going to see from Banderas Bay or Baja. So, And one thing I'd love to do at some point would be to do an analysis of the rake marks on our tails, because the rake marks of the whales from Banderas Bay, I've heard that like up to a third of them have rake marks from surviving killer whale attacks, whereas ours, that percentage is far lower. And I haven't done the analysis, but I think that could say something about where our whales migrate. And because they're not all getting attacked right in Banderas Bay. Something's happening to them along the way. So where are Guerrero and Central America whales going compared to whales from Banderas Bay is something to think about. And cookie cutter shark marks is another one. I mean, the whales that like Flint, this Hawaii whale, it had cookie cutter shark marks, and we don't have cookie cutter sharks in Mexico where I am. And so that's happening in Hawaii. And so
they have in Hawaii, a lot of them it's like they look like polka dots.
So that would be so fun to look at the bodies of our whales and see which ones have cookie cutter shark marks, and then dial down into their sighting history. And as more and more data gets uploaded to Happy Whale, these are the kinds of things that can get become very quickly ascertained compared to prior years. So, I mean, that would have taken someone 5 years to do before. And now it's so much easier. It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
I like Flint's pattern on Happy Whale to triangle.
Yeah.
Not very many whales have that.
It's beautiful too, because Jim lives up in Tofino when he's not in Hawaii. And so that whale has been to where he is in Vancouver Island, and it's been to his group in Hawaii, and then down to us in Guerrero. So, and the thing that really got us talking about it was Beth Goodwin and I had a conversation about this whale, as she had made the self-driving little aquatic vehicle that went from Hawaii to the Islas Revillagigedos with a hydrophone attached, and heard that there were whales singing in the middle of the ocean between the Islas Revillagigedos and Hawaii. And that was not something we expected. So then this whale swimming back the other way further strengthened that idea. But yeah, Beth and I got really excited when because of this sighting, because of that work that she'd done before.
Well, and Flint's in 8 catalogs. He's in 8 different research groups catalogs.
He's a
That's
really
awesome
guy. Yeah.
Tasley Shaw has seen it. I know a couple people have seen him. Wow. We need to get a boat and go straight across and follow that route. And see
I know, right? Oh,
we're in. If you need someone crazy to go with you, we're in.
Such a dream for me to, and just to be with them like that in that way would be incredible for sure.
Cabo to Maui, I'm in.
Yeah, right? Oh, yeah. Wow, that would just be incredible. Yeah.
And I don't even care if we go real slow so that we actually spot things. 'Cause you can
I'll
pass
go
so
at a
much.
whale's pace. I will literally follow the whale all
Yeah,
the way.
yeah, that's what I want. And like a sailboat or something that doesn't make any noise so we don't have to bother them, and we can just
Well, and then we don't have to worry about fuel either if we could just sail.
yeah. Well, I like what Diane Gendron's doing up with the blue whales in Loreto. Do you follow her at all? Oh, she's amazing. So she's been doing blue whale research for like 25 years in Loreto in Baja. She's a hero of mine. She's so cool. And so she has a sailboat and she studies the blue whales on her sailboat. And because of the way blue whales are, you can't like go chasing after them in a sailboat. And she figured out that they feed in a spiral. And so she would just kind of park her boat and let the whale come by her and get to know it. And started this whole way of studying whales very passively. And she also works with very local guys and does the same model that I do. And that gets people to be very lovely with the blue whales up there. So there's, to me, it's my very, very favorite place to be with blue whales is in a little ponga or in a sailboat in Loreto Sea, where it's just so calm and there's a single whale and it flukes, goes down, comes up a half a mile over there, and you find them by sound. It's beautiful by the sound of its blow.
Yeah, it's also cool because it's blue whale meets desert. I've been there and it's just like blue whale fluking up with like desert mountains is like, it's just not, we see blue whales here, and it's just very like open ocean or I don't know, the bay, but
yeah, it's astonishing. Cool, they seem smaller in Monterey. I don't know why, but yeah,
they probably are. Honestly, I feel like when I was honestly, we're on bigger boats most of the time in Monterey, so that honestly could be it too.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I was around hundreds of blue whales in the Channel Islands one time. And for me, it was more powerful to see a single blue whale in a ponga than it was to see hundreds. I mean, of course it was epic, of course. And I would never let go of that memory, but yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah.
So do you have any future goals with your project?
Well, we want to raise enough money so we can survive. So there's always that. And then when we have the money to survive, what our goals are right now are we want to create a community run and driven and backed whale sanctuary for mom calf pairs. And so the idea is to collect all the data around where whales are nesting, where they're resting and nursing in our area.
Same.
And yeah, kind of, and partner with the community, just like we did in the original study, to say, okay, so we have whales and not that many, and here's where there's lots of boats, and here's where there's intensive fishing, and here's where we've seen the most mom calf pairs. And so where are they most vulnerable? Where can we give the whales some space? Where do we need to be? What do you want to do? And then do this, like collect the data, share it in real time, present it along the way. And I don't present it, the community presents it, and I teach people how to present. And most of the decisions don't happen during those presentations anyway. I mean, they happen in a hammock over a beer, like they happen in the standing in the street, and just being available to listen and being a good participant in the community. So I think that in 3 years, the goal is to create a sanctuary for mom calf pairs. And if we can create that, I will be so proud of my community, and because that's something. And I'd love to see my project being run by Mexican marine mammal scientists and educators. And eventually, in a way, I mean, I never want to leave. I love what I do, but if it can be something that can live without me, then that's something that I will feel I've done a good job. So, I mean, of course, I want to get these big papers published, and that's been a monkey on my back for a really long time. And I'm certainly hoping to get this paper, 2 different big papers out over the next year, plus that genetics note. And I'd like to just keep on clarifying what the visions are of get that resolution improved about the humpback whale population by continuing to collect our data. And then some sort of pipe dreams I have that we don't have the bandwidth for would be, I'd love to do more offshore studies, maybe in a sailboat for that too, in terms of gas. And I'd love to do some eDNA or environmental DNA study work, and get clarity on what kind of beak whales are out there and what other animals. And like last week, one of my captains called and was like, we just had 5 humpback whales pass through. It's August. There's not supposed to be 5 humpback whales there. Are they coming from the south? Are they going north? Who knows? So doing some year-round work as well as getting some eDNA data collected could be really cool to open up future studies. And I really want to share what we've learned about community-based and community-run conservation and science work with the world, and keep sort of maintaining this model and being a reference point, so that other communities and researchers around can come to me, and not just to me, but to the whole community of people who have ever worked with us, and use that as a model to get that deeper connection going, because we have collected really good data and it's contributed to the global picture of science. But it's also the way that we collected it was done in a way that nothing can be sure, but I think that the whales are going to long-term be better off for us having done this research. And that's just not the case for so many other people that collect data. And I feel super proud of that and thankful for my time that I got to do collecting data as a volunteer for many different organizations and working at the Exploratorium, and just listening and being a non-scientist. I think that I was able to come into it like, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing, guys, but I care about you and I care about whales, and let's try and figure this thing out together. And then when I made mistakes, I could say like, oh, shoot, we were wrong about this. And what does that look like? And how should we fix it? And letting the community decide along the way what the priorities are going to be, instead of me saying, this is what we're going to do. And even though I think it would be the sexiest thing in the world to go offshore and hang out in the sailboat for 3 months, like maybe that's not the biggest interest of the community. So darn, right?
I'll do it for you.
Yeah, okay, come on down. Yeah. I mean, we can talk about pelagic fishing tours, maybe. I don't know. So they do this really neat fishing out there where they fish for tuna with a kite. Have you ever seen that?
Yes. Yeah.
Love that. So yeah, that's I want to partner with those guys and just like to use digital cameras and collect data and give them some eDNA kits and just be like, hey, if you see something weird, can you drop this hydrophone, record, take a picture, mark a waypoint, and scoop up some water, And and I'll buy you a big old lunch and a 6-pack, and like that would be very, very fun.
Oh man, can you imagine if science was done that way? That'd be awesome.
Well, it is being done that way.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
We should have everybody doing that though. That would be great.
I know.
Get paid in beer.
People get so into it. It's just, I mean, the first year, me and Arturo were out there, and Arturo has like a 7th grade level education. He's a really smart guy. He just wasn't much for school. And we went out, and every day we would drop that bloody hydrophone every half hour, record. I was doing 3-minute recordings at the time. Now we record for 1 minute for presence, absence of sound, and or of vocalization of humpbacks. And he's in charge of the hydrophone. He's in charge of data collection. He's the boat driver. And I always had him be in charge of acoustics. And he's much better than me because I get all excited about things. And he's like, hey, it's time, hour. And he's the one that like makes it happen and fixes the hydrophone. And he's very rigorous. So we're out there. And after doing that many hundreds of times, we hadn't heard singing in a couple weeks. And he said, oh, okay. So we've been listening for whales every half hour since January. And now it's the end of March and we haven't heard singing. So before we didn't know when whales start and stop singing. And now because we have this, we can say the whales start and stop singing at this time because of what we just did. And I'm like, yes, science. And he's in and I was in, and he just doubled down on his data collection. So that was really, really cool. So yeah, I think giving community members ownership of the data and showing them why it matters and what impact their work has, and that anybody can do it. It takes some development of skills, but you can do it, and there's a good reason to do it. And once you motivate people and give them that credit, it becomes great, and it's affordable too. Like not going out on a big research ship, and things like COVID happened, and I fled home to Oregon. I mean, my dog's up here, so I'm like, and I mean, I was still married then too, so my husband was here too. But yeah, I mean, I came home and it was like, oh no, now we're not going to collect data. But I mean, I didn't know, no one did, that it was going to go on for a whole year. But the community collected data when I wasn't there, and they kept it going completely perfectly without me, because they had been trained. And so many people lost that when they were not living that way, but we were able to just keep it going. And I mean, they fixed the hydrophones. Like, I had a community member build a hydrophone out of a Coca-Cola can, and it works. They went to the market and they looked at a NOAA diagram that Jay Barlow did, and they replicated it, and they made a microphone using a Coca-Cola can and some parts from like a radio and a microphone. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. Like, every village in the world has some nerdy computer guy who hoards all of the old dead pieces of the PC.
The radio guy, the electronics guy. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a really important person to become friends with. They give you free internet, and they fix your computers, and they do stuff. They understand things. So yeah.
Oh man.
They're usually agoraphobic, so you got to search them out. But
yeah,
also paying attention. So like, get on your ham radio and see if you can find them.
You want to ask your last one?
No, I said you're asking the last two. We'll cut this
No,
out.
you were gonna ask the one.
No.
Okay, fine, I'll go. We'll crop that part out. Okay, so we have just two kind of like last questions to get all wrapped up here. This has been awesome. We're like recording way longer than I thought we would, and I love it. So if you could ask people to do one thing for the whales, what do you think it would be?
Oh, that's a great question. If I could ask people to do one thing for the whales, who's people?
I mean, if someone came to you and was just like, I want to help the whales, what do I do?
I guess I would say put your money where your mouth is, and stay vigilant, And so that goes from choosing your whale watch operator with thought and care. Think about what you eat. Think about your habits. And if you care about whales, do your best to care about them all the way around your own ecological food, your personal food web, like of living. Like, what are you doing to help the whales? Because you can do things to help the whales by your plastic consumption, by your food consumption, by who you go whale watching with, by how you travel, by what kind of clothes you buy, all of it. And how you do anything is how you do everything. And it just feels really good to walk your talk and, to vote with your wallet. So I would say no matter where you are in the world, that is something that would apply.
Awesome.
What
and
about
then, well, I mean, that's pretty much what I say on the boat. I say put the environment in your decision-making process. So whether it's, reducing plastic, or, how you get knowing where your protein comes from, or how you travel, what's your carbon footprint, like all that kind of stuff. But also, like, how do you vote? How do you support local campaigns in your community? Like, that kind of stuff matters too. So
totally. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And if people want to learn more about the Whales of Guerrero Project and want to participate or support, what's the best way to direct people to you?
So thanks for asking. The project is whalesinmexico.com, and we have a newsletter And I'm a writer. I try and make it fun and funny and interesting. So I send basically a quarterly newsletter out about what we're doing. So when we do have expeditions, it comes up there. We live on individual donations. That's how we survive. And so besides some small grant support, it's individual donations that make a big difference. And those can be via donations directly to Whales in Mexico. The other really cool thing is that we partner with Happy Whale. And so Happy Whale and I, when you make a donation and adopt a whale, like the whales we have in common, people can get out, take a picture of a whale and become the patron of a whale. And then that gets split between Happy Whale and Whales of Guerrero. So that's another way to support Whales of Guerrero. We do have an Instagram. It's not awesome, but it will be someday. Our Facebook is super dynamic. So you can look up Whales in Mexico or Whales of Guerrero on Facebook and find us there. But yeah, I would say the newsletter, Facebook, Instagram, those are the good ways to do it. Yeah. And you can find me directly through that website.
Perfect. All right.
Awesome.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to this project. And thank you, Katherina, for joining us. This was an amazing conversation.
I'm so glad.
Happy we
Thanks so
had
much
you
for
on.
having me on. Yeah, I'll hopefully have some updates once I get more stuff published in the next year. But thanks for getting your whale nerd on with me. I've always called myself and people whale nerds, so I just you're my people.
You're a whale nerd. You're a whale nerd.
Oh, yeah, big time. Completely.
Now I have another
right.
place I have to travel to.
Yeah,
I know.
yes, come and see us for sure. Yeah, love to get on a boat with you down there.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.